Three friends, one amazing series of YA novels, an insatiable thirst to relive the glory that is K.A. Applegate's literary masterpiece. This is Fanimail, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles.
Hello, and welcome to the Dork-Bajir Chronicles, a podcast where we read through the Animorphs series one book at a time, then talk about it every week. Today we'll be talking about Animorphs number 33, The Illusion. My name is Mikhail, the host.
I'm Tessa, the expert.
And I'm Braden, and I gotta clean my house, I gotta do my laundry, and I gotta make sure my parents don't find out that I am having sex.
Well, you've come to the right podcast, believe me. So before we get into Fanimail for this week, some of them are more observing listeners might have noticed that we didn't actually do episode 18 of the TV series, even though we said we were going to last week. It's a technical problems, not really something that needs to be talked about on the show.
Yeah.
It's
Yerk interference.
It's
100%.
embarrassing. It's like 100% Yerk interference, and that's my bad. I did not put the tinfoil around the thingamadoodle like I should have. I come up to it. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm sorry.
Maybe it was the Elements just being like, listen, you guys don't need to do this anymore. Stop torturing yourselves.
I like that. He's like,
or maybe it was
stop.
Krayak
Oh, shit.
realizing we're getting too close to the truth that the Animorphs TV series is actually secretly good.
No, I don't buy that. Objectively, there's no way. So instead of doing episode 18, which we'll do later, we're going to jump right into number 33, which I can't imagine anyone's going to complain about because this is like a crowd favorite
It's
for sure.
a very good book.
But because Braden thought we were going to be doing episode 18 of the TV series today, he hasn't done any predictions for 33. However, he did write his predictions down, so maybe we'll get that out of the way right now.
Predictions!
Predictions! Well, my predictions were pretty far off, but I mean, I think spiritually they were still in the same realm. I had the idea that the anti-morphing ray was going to be used against Tobias, and instead of becoming a hawk or a boy or something else, he was going to become an Andalite.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not a bad prediction at all, considering the cover is that. Yeah. Sure. I buy it.
Okay. I mean,
you're not actually totally wrong either, but we'll get into that later. Now it's time for
Fanimail! Ooh, yeah! Fanimail! Ooh, yeah!
All right, so this week's Fanimail comes from Dill Stoney on Twitter at DYLSTONEE, and he points out something that we had a little bit of a mental grapple with when we did the TV show last week ourselves. Our next piece. Our second link is to at Gaybones on Twitter, at GAYBONZE. He let us know that OMG, TV show Tobias was a major crush for me, which is like, why else would you watch this show other than that dreamy long-nosed boy?
So dreamy. Oh my god. I mean, I'm still mad that Axe gets a better leather jacket, but God.
I guess that's really debate. Axe does get a better leather jacket. Tobias's leather jacket is definitely very like Tony Soprano.
Also, Tobias does have like that quintessential 90s haircut in the TV show where it's like really bouncy bowl cut kind of with the part down the middle that's like impossibly sculpted. You know what I mean?
You're saying he does or he doesn't have that?
He does have that in the TV show.
He
looks like a boy bandman.
High school me wanted to run her fingers through that luscious mane of his. It's so beautiful.
But you know that 13-year-olds at that age, they're just putting like fucking dippity-doo in their hair and running it with a comb. Like they're not using hairspray and shit like that like they clearly did for that actor. Anyways, you know, I'm not trying to shame anyone. You have your crushes.
You
that's
can
fine.
use Dippy Doo if you want. It's fine. That's what
What?
Michaela's saying. Okay.
So maybe we should move on to the summary, which is by Tessa this week, I think.
Hell yeah, it is, because this is my favorite book. I've talked about that many times. Now that you guys have read this book, probably you know a lot more about me as a person, that I would pick arguably one of the darkest books in the series to be my favorite. But oh man, it's so sad. And it starts out
Is this as dark as it gets? Really?
I mean,
No.
It's pretty bad, but
It's,
It gets
it's
way
bad.
worse. There are many moments where it's not nearly this bad before we hit the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry. It does take a nice downturn towards the end.
oh well.
I do think this might
that's
be
all
one
I
of
ever
the
wanted.
This might be one of the few books where an Animorph betrays the rest of them and just says their name all out. One of the few, but we'll come to that because this book starts with another dance. Marco's the only one enjoying himself, and Tobias, in Human Morph, is getting paranoid that Rachel wants to trap him in his Human Morph forever. And like, oh man, I only have 7 minutes left in my morph. I see the clock.
Which she does. Women be plotting.
Well, and I think also, like, there's a thing where Tobias doesn't think that he's, like, deserving of love or that somebody actually wants to hang out with him. And that's why he's like,
Aw.
oh, yeah. Obviously, the only reason she wants to see me as a boy isn't because she wants to kiss my boy body, but because she wants to trap me as a boy so that she can take me to the movies and stuff. They slow dance to a Goo Goo Dolls song. Can we all assume that that was Iris?
Yeah, probably,
Yeah,
honestly.
probably. Like, that's
Yeah.
the saddest
Oh, yeah.
one. That's the
It's not a
saddest
bad
one.
song. It's not a bad song.
I like it. No, it's a very good song.
You know what? It was probably a much more like it was probably a much more like in this case thematically appropriate song, like their song about being trapped in a bird body while you're actually a boy.
Pretty much.
As like Tobias panics and runs away, Rachel runs after him, and they stop thematically right in front of this little corkboard that talks about different birds of prey, and one of them talks about red-tailed hawks. A generous estimate to their lifespan in the wild is 18 years.
Yeah.
Rough stuff.
Weirdly prophetic piece of school education to find
Yeah.
in that moment.
Yeah.
It's really specific.
This book is a little bit of those kind of like, and Tobias comments at one point about it being like, oh man, like everything was so perfect and symbolic in that moment. But like, I'm eating it up. Tobias jumps a fence to try and run out of the school, and there's an old teacher of his, Mr. Feroyan, who like kind of recognizes him. He just demorphs in time and sees Mr. Feroyan run out and like look around for him and seems sad and turn back, and Tobias is sad, but then he flies away, that sweet bird of prey.
Is that going to be a new meme? Is that going to have to go on our
Going to
Animorphs,
be?
our Fanimorphs bingo card?
Going to be a new meme. He sees Jake. They have a cute little moment. Jake talks about how he only sleeps 20 minutes at a time, and you're like, oh my god, boy, you're 14, you need more sleep. They all meet up at the barn the next day to talk about some news Jake has heard from Eric. The Yeerks have got the anti-morphing ray, and the Chi don't know where it is. All they know is that the Yeerks plan on using it on a live subject, and of course Visitor 3 isn't going to go suggesting he get zapped with a ray, because who knows if this ray is even going to work, or if it's going to kill the subject, or whatever. So Jake lays out a plan where he suggests that he goes. Of course, Rachel thinks that that's ridiculous, and she'll be the one that will be the bait. Oh, so that's their plan, is that they know that the Yeerks want to get them, and they'll pretend to get got by actually getting got, and then proving that the ray doesn't work, and then like blowing it up somehow. So Jake says he's going to go. Rachel's like, no, you're the leader. I'll go. Axe is like, no, they want to find an Animorph. I'll go. Tobias notices that Jake is hiding something, and he's like, oh, right. Shit, it's me. I'm the one who should go. Even if the ray does work, all they're going to see is a hawk. So they make their little plan. They go to the award ceremony that's happening that night, because the Yeerks, the Sharing, just built this fancy schmancy new community center, and they're giving Tom a medal because he's just so handsome and so brave.
I hate this part so much.
Yeah, this is dumb.
Why?
This is such a
It's
dumb
so
conceit.
Good. It's such a good little
It's
scene.
not that the award ceremony. it's Axe being there at all.
Axe is so... Because he's in human morph, and Jake is there as himself with his family, not being able to do anything. Axe is there in human morph, and everybody else is flies, and Tobias is, like, up top watching the bonkers happen. We got Axe wandering around, cotton candy stuck to his face. Marco as a fly is in the chocolate fountain. Rachel as a fly is in the cotton candy, saying dip the dip, which is not helpful, and Axe tries to very carefully dip a strawberry to get Marco out of the chocolate fountain. Cassie flies onto Jake's forehead when Visser 3 in human morph is walking by, and Visser 3 is gonna, like, smack him. And then she, like, flies into his pocket and hears them have, like, a little exchange. And you gotta imagine, it's got the same amount of intensity as in the TV show, where TV show Jake was just chowing down on escargot, looking at Victor Trent the whole time. Like,
See, the
that's
problem I had
energy.
was that one sentence where they're like, Axe dips his entire hand into the fondue chocolate.
know.
And it's like, you're not recovering from that.
No.
Not without a sink and some soap and paper towel.
And also-
Because there's no fucking way that's not going to just be a sticky mess for the rest of the day.
And
Well,
also
it'll just
literally-
dry.
Literally every adult is watching you, and they're going to be like, who is the parent of this child? We need to get him out of here. Who is this animal ruining our chocolate fountain?
Yeah, he fucking ruined it by putting his dirty kid
His
fingers
dirty
in
kid
it.
fingers in there. Gross. Axe, you've never washed your human hands.
I was gonna say you could just morph out of the chocolate.
I don't know if that's the most ideal solution in
Oh
this
my god,
situation.
can you imagine, like, Axe morphs back into Andalite, and then when he's doing this Andalite business later in this book, he's just got a chocolate hand that's just covered in chocolate, but his two pinkies are fine. It's just 5 of his fingers that are covered in chocolate. That would be
Distinctive.
wild. Also, okay, Mikhail, I think you're really gonna like book 35.
Okay.
After this reaction, I think there's a moment that you're really gonna like. Anyway, I have to say, I think their plan is a good one for once. Like, they don't do nearly as much planning as they should, but okay, they've got, like, the bones of a good plan. Instead of just, like, let's wander around in our human forms screaming our teammates' names in a your compound. It's not that bad.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I agree. I think our situation for next week has to do with this plan specifically, so we'll dive in.
Yeah.
After the hijinks at the award ceremony, where Jake goes up to Axe and is like, okay, stop messing around. We have to do something here. And Tobias is like, I really could have used a little bit more messing around before we just hand me over to the Yerks, but whatever. Axe demorphs to Andalite, and Axe and Tobias sneak into the community center to try and figure out where the entrance to the Yerk pool is, because they're building a new entrance to the Yerk pool. And they want Tobias's capture to feel like a real thing. Like there was some kind of attack against the Yerk pool. So they're doing a slink around, and there's a very good moment where they open up the door to the break room, and there's a bunch of Dork-Bajir playing cards.
Oh my god. I was so excited to see that because it raises so many questions.
I have wanted to paint that picture since I was a child. Like, it's like the dogs playing cards, but they're Dork-Bajir. Oh my god. How amazing.
First of all, how do they hold the cards?
Right? How do they hold the cards?
Second of all, what game could they possibly be playing? Like, are they at like poker level intelligences, or are we talking at like Go Fish kind of thing, or are we talking like Uno?
So it's the Yerks controlling them, and the Yerk have intelligence to play poker, but do Yerks have their own kind of card game that they've invented, or did they all infest human card sharks? That way they learned the rules of poker, because Yerks won't have their own card game knowledge, right? Like, who taught these Dork-Bajir cards?
Well, they have like essentially like digital worlds that we learned in Dork-Bajir Chronicles, like through their polyps.
Yeah.
They can like jack into computers, and they probably like games
they
are
just,
pretty
like,
simple.
made solitaire for their Yerk computers, so every
Yeah.
Yerk knows how to play cards.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, all right. Well,
Pretty much.
The new entrance to the Yerk pool is in the kids' playground tunnel, so they start their trap there. I think Tobias flies into the tunnel as they're doing like some kind of raid, and ends up there. It's a little bit confusing. I don't quite remember, but anyway, Tobias is in a room, and there's a bunch of Dork-Bajir controllers and Chapman and this blonde chick who looks like Rachel. No, she's not Rachel. She's got a fake
The only
arm.
thing that makes her look like Rachel is she's literally a blonde female under 18 years old.
She's also like incredibly beautiful. So I think they're both like beautiful in the same way. Like an agent, like a casting agent wouldn't hire both Rachel and this other girl because they're both the same type. You know what I mean? Like,
Animorphs breaking boundaries everywhere.
They got two blonde girls. What the hell? One of them's good and one of them's bad. Anyway, this New York lady says that she's a subvisor and that her name is Taylor, which Chapman says that's her host's name. And she's like, shut up, Chapman, and stomps her foot, which is like, okay, all right. Tobias starts to demorph to Andalite, but oops, Taylor has got a fake arm, and inside that fake arm is some paralyzer spray, and everybody gets paralyzed. And then Rachel, who's in fly morph, stuck to his feathers to like tell everybody else where the anti-morphing ray is, well, she falls off, and it's heartbreaking because now Tobias is all alone. Holy hell, maybe Rachel will get stepped on while she's trapped in her fly morph on the floor. There's no way to know until you finish the book. So Tobias,
clever fuck.
Tobias gets put in this 4-foot by 4-foot glass cube that is like electrified walls, and there's these 3 different colored buttons that are not buttons, but like 3 different colored lights: black, red, and blue. There's 3 buttons on the other side that Taylor can touch: black, red, and blue. Visor 3 comes in, mentally terrorizes some scientists. They pull out all of their papers and they're all like, oh, I'm just a nerd. Oh man, my boss is here. Oh, I better not fuck it up. And they hit the black button and nothing happens. And Visor 3's like, all right, you fucked up. Feed them to the Taxons.
How come there's no cool scientists on the Yerk side? Like in the TV show and in this, like, remember the number 28 where they're like the fucking weak ass scientists in the slaughterhouse?
Because scientists aren't fucking cool, Mikhail. That's not what scientists are for.
Andalite scientists.
Andalite scientists are cool aliens.
Spock.
Yeah, Spock is a fucking nerd who wants to suck, like, Captain Kirk's flaccid penis.
To be fair to the scientists on the Yerk side, like, they work for Visor 3, and he's not all about, like, giving second chances. And science is tricky. So
can't he see like constantly examples of why his like methods of leadership are fucking terrible and self-destructive?
He has 4 eyes, but he cannot see.
Jesus. Anyways.
Because in his natural state, he has no eyes. You can lead a Yerk to eyes. You can lead a Yerk to eye. Yeah.
You can lead a Yerk to eyes, but you can't make them see. That's a badge. That's a t-shirt, my friends. Anyway, Visor 3 leaves Tobias to Taylor to torture, which is a fun sentence to say. Visor 3 does some lying. It's like, oh yeah, we found like an Andalite, we killed him. We found a bunch of other Andalites and we killed him. And then like gets a little bit bummed out that Tobias doesn't really react to this. So he's like, fine, torture the bitch. Walks out. So Taylor pushes the red button, which is a hookup to his brain sensors, I guess. So it just basically inflicts pure pain to Tobias. Like straight through his brain, he's feeling pain, which causes him to thrash around. So now his actual body is feeling pain. Like throughout the course of this torture session, his wing gets sprained and then broken. His beak gets bloodied as he's bashing it into the wall and the floor. The electrified walls, might I add. It's awful. Tobias hides behind the hawk morph because the hawk understands pain, because to the hawk, life is pain. And oh my god, can you get more emo?
I think you're really skipping over the most important part. The reason he's going so crazy with pain is because his mind is going through a Jungian nightmare-scape of the worst things that ever happened to him at the same time.
Yeah, and he's also not even just remembering the worst things that happened to him. He starts to imagine the worst things that have ever happened to, like, any animal, like any torture story of animal abuse that Cassie has told the group he is imagining is happening to him. But he hides behind...
Yeah, Cassie's a fucking bitch.
Right?
This is Cassie's fault.
Don't tell me about this Canada goose getting clubbed to death. I mean, also, don't just complain about that. The goose probably fucking deserved it. Oh, controversial.
Goose are fucking evil. I was
Just
just
kidding. Just kidding. Nobody deserves torture, but also goose terrify me. I hate listening to them hiss. So Taylor figures out that Tobias is hiding behind the hawk brain. That's just like, all right, life is pain, whatever. And she's like, okay, you're hiding behind this morph. I see. Let's break you a different way. And she pushes the blue button, which is pure pleasure. And
Wait. There's a specific detail right before this where in order to figure out how to alternate between happy and sad, she has to read the manual of the machine.
Just hit the other fucking button that hasn't been hit. No, I gotta read the manual first. No, there's 3. There's the black one, and that's the anti-morphing, right? But like, you've hit 2 buttons. Try the third one.
It's terrible. I hated it.
It's pleasure / happiness. And like, I was telling Jared as I was reading this book, he's like, oh, you could definitely tell these books were written for kids because the pleasure one wasn't about fucking. And I'm like, you're awful. And this is why we only have you on for the TV show. You don't deserve the books. Yeah, but the blue one makes him remember any of the good memories of his childhood, like Professor Powers, who he lived nearby for a little bit, or like playing with his dinosaur toys, or like eating ice cream and jumping on a trampoline. And while his human self is, because like a hawk doesn't know what pleasure is, right? Hawk just knows the satisfaction of a good meal. Human can actually taste the good flavors of the meal. So now that his human mind is like naked and afraid, she hits that pain button. And yeah, over the course of a couple of chapters, Tobias goes crazy. He imagines himself looking at Alfangor. He feels a cool tail blade against his forehead. He remembers Alfangor's memories, which like, okay. And then he succumbs to the torture and starts screaming out all of the other Animorphs' names. Like Cassie, Jake, Rachel, they're all human. Axe, he lives in the woods. Like they're human kids and an Andalite kid. But sounds like the Yeerks don't hear him because the torture continues. At one point, to try and kind of give himself a bit of a break, he compliments Taylor and says, "You're very pretty," and we get to hear her sad backstory, where she used to be very beautiful and popular. All the boys wanted to date her. All the girls wanted to be her. Then there was a house fire, and the house burned down, and she lost her left arm, right leg, and her face. Nobody visited her in the hospital, and then all of her classmates spread horror stories about how now she's ugly and gross because her skin was all burned off and she was in this horrifying accident. So the Yeerks are like,
fucking gross. Jesus Christ, Tessa. Burn victims exist, you sick fuck.
This is just Kate. This is what Taylor is saying that her classmates said about her. I'm not sharing this. What I'm saying are just the views of the characters in the book, and they do not express the views of the hosts.
I see you right now. We're recording across from each other. I saw the actual sincere disgust on your face. You cannot hide the fact. This is... Tessa, I will not let you make this a burn victim hating podcast.
Okay,
I will not allow it.
I'm just saying my house burned down and I didn't lose my arm or leg. Like...
What? How does that relate at all to what
it doesn't. It doesn't.
Sorry, right. Taylor clearly just wasn't quick enough.
Yeah. It's her fault.
There's a clear winner in the House Fire Olympics, and it's you.
Can we blame Taylor for just being, Taylor, if you were like not so pretty and popular in high school, maybe God wouldn't have punished you with a house fire.
Yeah, maybe if you hadn't worn such a seductive skirt, your skin wouldn't have peeled off.
God, no, now I feel bad.
She was sleeping and she was slit. Help, my face got burned off. Well, what were you wearing?
Oh God! Now I'm sad.
This is now officially the podcast of Housefire Olympics and Housefire victim blaming.
Can we? No, I liked it better when we were just about Animorphs. I regret everything. Anyway, the Yeerks were like, "Hey, pretty lady, want to be pretty again? Become a voluntary host, and let's do it." And they give her really cool body mods and they fix up her face, and yeah, so she's got like artificial like limbs and stuff, but they're all matted out, and like the way she's described using her fingers and stuff, it's like, hey, all right, it's more than they just put like a table leg to your shoulder. Like you can actually control your limbs with this crazy Yeerk technology, which opens up all other ideas about like, okay, do the Yeerks just go and try to talk to all other people who maybe can't afford good prosthetics, and they're like, hey, join the dark side. We've got good prosthetics. Like, that would be a way to recruit hosts.
This is always a thing in sci-fi that I have a problem with. Whenever there's, like, prosthetics that just make you, like, harder, better, faster, stronger, and also you can shoot bullets out of your hand.
Yeah.
Why don't they just strap some of those to the Hork? Why is it just on this, like, small human woman who literally needed them? Like, take those two arms.
Okay.
Take that arm and that leg and slap it on a Dork-Bajir. It can run twice as fast. It has an extra arm to shoot with. Like,
it's not like a Jaeger from Pacific Rim.
I thought you meant replace its leg with this thing, and then it could jump by shooting the ground and
Oh,
jumping
man.
super far.
That means it could double jump if it shoots in the air.
it's called a
Mario.
rocket jump, actually. Double jump is what Mario does.
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying is turn the Dork-Bajir into Mario. Anyway, Visitor 3 interrupts this torture fest by bringing in a bald eagle. And Tobias is like, oh no, they got Rachel. And then he sees, oh man, the patches of feathers. I almost said fur. What animal are we talking about? The patches of feathers on this bald eagle's chest are falling off. Just like the terminally ill bald eagle that Cassie talked about taking care of at the beginning of the book. Huh. Tobias is like, I will tell you nothing. They feed the bald eagle to the Taxons. And then Axe demorphs from a flea behind everybody else. And the Animorphs come in, fuck shit up, free Tobias from his glass cage. Like, Marco gets himself ripped in half, but he frees Tobias because he's a good, strong, brave boy, and he knows that it's not nearly as much fun flirting with Rachel if Rachel doesn't have Tobias to, like, bounce off of. Marco needs his other man there to make that OTP be a 3TP, if you know what I mean.
Yes, you mean you want to fuck them. Yeah, they all fuck each other.
Yeah.
I would have said it's a TTP, but that's from number 27.
No, I think it's OT3. OT3 is the proper pronunciation. Anyway, Taylor starts grabbing Tobias and, like, dragging him and beating him over the head with, like, the panel of buttons that she still has. He is trying to morph into Andalite because his broken bird body can't do any damage. She breaks his Andalite fingers and dangles him over the edge above the Urk pool and then drops him. But somehow he's able to hold on. And then Rachel comes up in bear morph, just fucking strangles the shit out of Taylor. And Tobias says, Rachel, be Rachel, not her. Don't kill her. Because of course, Tobias has got to be the stupid Aragorn kind of person who lets a bad guy live. Ugh.
I mean, they kind of do that all the time. Like, number 8.
Yeah.
This is one book that I got really excited about because we got into some when Tobias morphed into Axe and Axe started teaching him Tailblade martial arts.
Oh, that was so
really cute.
Yeah, that was fucking awesome. I loved that. But then all the other fights in this one were just like, a Dork-Bajir came by. Rachel beat him up. Marco was in the rafters and then fell.
Yeah,
I mean,
It was
like-
just very,
Yeah.
I like my fight scenes like I like my coffee. Long, dark, and excessively involving scarification.
Well, I mean, there's a little bit of scarification at the end of the book because now you're left with the emotional scars that book 33 put on your heart. All the kids are at the beach. Axe and Tobias are in human morph. Axe is, like, detangling his kite strings because he's a huge nerd who still likes to fly kites, and I think that's adorable. And Tobias tells Axe about getting Elfanger's memories, and Axe is like, oh damn, this is like some kind of scientific myth about this happening, and nobody really knows if it's true, but, like, people say that there can be memories in your DNA. Whoa! Rachel shows up, kisses Tobias, and then they go fly away as sweet birds of prey.
And they fuck.
Okay.
They fuck in the rafters.
I have some thoughts about this book. And the first one, let me just get it out of the way. I don't love it.
What? How could you not? It's so dark.
It's not even the hijinks. Like, I always knew Axe in human form is a mistake. Always. So that wasn't a surprise to me
That's
went
because
sideways.
Mikhail has burned off all of his taste buds and he's just angry at the joy that Axe gets from our human food that Mikhail can no longer taste.
Whatever. Yeah. Okay, that was really specific. The problem I have with it is that it's basically number 16, except from like Rachel's point of view. Like, what if it was the POV of the prisoner who basically does nothing the whole time? And then at the end, we get sort of like a Deus Ex Machina where everyone bursts in. But I want to hear the story of them like finding him and infiltrating and stuff.
And like they said, Jake says the Chi have secured a way out. How? The Chi are non-violent. Like Eric can do. I mean, it's kind of wiggly of whether what he can do is violent or not. But like, how did they get a way out?
I think somewhere off the scenes, the Chi have realized, hey, we can't hurt people, but we can suck them off. And they get around by they just do the best blowjobs in the world on those Dork-Bajir.
That's a good theory. Okay.
Oh man.
They seem to be like exfiltration people as well because of I'm thinking of number 31 where they had like the medevac and stuff. Yeah.
The word you're looking for is extraction.
Exfiltration? Is that not right?
No.
That's definitely a word.
Exfiltration? It sounds fake, but okay.
Exfiltration is when you pull someone out instead of trying to get in.
That sounds like a sci-fi rape porn genre.
Not, oh my god.
I mean, maybe just to you.
Exfiltration is totally a word.
That sounds like what happens to like the aliens and aliens when they get implanted in a person's stomach, but like if they got implanted in like your genitalia.
Exfiltration, an antonym for infiltration.
Okay.
Same meaning as extraction in the military.
It's like,
well, we're gonna edit that
Okay.
out and make you look like a fool who loves science fiction rape porn.
I think you're the only one that comes across that way in this conversation.
Okay, like this dance though. What is up with this dance? They've got like sad balloons and a couple of streamers tied to the basketball hoops.
Yeah, they blew all the money on that first dance.
I guess so. But Marco is living for the second dance, and I gotta say, I admire the guy. Be you. Also, okay, Tobias is so freaked out about demorphing. Just demorph in the fucking bathroom. Marco's at this dance. Get him to watch your back. Demorph real quick. Remorph. You're fine.
Did anybody else imagine that Marco got real dressed up for this, like real slick duds?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's got that cool, like, not hairspray shit in his hair to make it look sick.
But I think it's like ironic dressed up, like super bad, kind of. You know?
But like, there's a little bit of truth to it that if a girl were to like honestly compliment him, he would take it.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the dance, I mean, obviously I loved Marco at the dance. And Marco at any like social situation with no tension is amazing. But
like Marco is what... You finish your thought.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think like Tobias saying over and over again that he thinks Rachel is trying to trap him as a human is like kind of really fucked up. Like for their relationship, it's like if you can't trust that they're 13-year-olds, so I think it's a stretch to say that they're partners. But
yeah,
if you can't trust your partner to like respect your wishes about like the direction your life is gonna take, then that's pretty messed up, I think. Anyways.
It is a little bit fucked. Like
trust is hard. I mean, yeah, like it's not a simple thing to believe that somebody else has your best interests at heart.
Oh, that was super deep. And you didn't say boner even one time.
I mean, like this one time I was bonering down on a girl and I was just thought to myself, is she going to try to put a finger in my butt?
And then she turned into a hawk and
then she
trapped
turned
you.
into a hawk and trapped me.
I think it's got to be part of the trust is there because he doesn't think like Tobias has got this whole not deserving of love and respect kind of thing going on still, clearly. Which, yeah, that means he can't trust people, but it's also like he thinks that people have the worst kind of planned for him, if that makes sense.
But those, like, especially like his friends, like to think that his friends are secretly plotting to trick him into do something
I mean,
That's like-
I think it's probably a lot easier when, like, to think your friends are trying to trick you into something that they would think is best for you, and maybe that you think is best for you in a lot of ways. It's like, this is, there's been this sort of, like, buzz in the back of my head and a lot in the fandom about how Tobias is, to a lot of people, representative of a queer character, and it was always sort of like, oh yeah, I guess you could interpret it that way, or like, oh yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down, but this like really put it into focus and made like, oh yeah, people trying to change you, people trying to think there's a natural way you are supposed to be, whether or not it's convenient for you or them, people trying to save you.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I really saw like, oh, there's queer Tobias.
And like me, I thought you were talking about how he was like boring a hole through that one guy's like, just because he forgot he wasn't a hawk and he's just staring at that one dude at the dance. But yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So it's like, oh, you're almost perfect. Let me just fix you in one little way, right?
Uh-huh.
I want to hear about how Rachel and Tobias kissed! OTP Alert!
They kissed. It was nice. I believe, okay, so I put down, yes, my Rachel Co dreams are technically in ashes, but, they have been reborn like a phoenix as my new ship. Cuck Bias.
Cuck bias. Yeah.
Oh, God.
My ship where I believe Marco is going to fuck Tobias's girlfriend.
While Tobias watches and just like opens and flaps his cloaca to it. Like,
No, he fucking hates it. Maybe he jerks
God.
off later, but like, that's a big part of, it's gotta be, you can't like it in the moment. That's not what Cuck Bias is about.
oh, okay. All right.
Maybe in cuckold porn, the guy like runs off, the cuck runs off crying and jerks it, not understanding why he's so turned on while crying. But, you don't, a cuck doesn't jerk off at the time.
I thought it was interesting that like we learned a shitload about Andalite culture and also like biology and
Like
stuff.
any little, like, they do have vestigial taste buds? What the fuck?
In their feet.
Yeah, at one point he's like, I can't, what was it? The taste of
Fresh water.
It was like the cool taste of grass. I think there's
His
specific
feet
types of grass.
felt refreshed.
Oh, wait. We already knew about the grass, like the grass having different tastes. I think that had I think that was in like book 4 even.
My point was not that they had a sense of taste at all. It's that they have what is described as a vestigial sense of taste, which I guess means, because vestigial just means like it doesn't matter anymore to your
It's like
survival.
a little nubbin, yeah.
But taste is actually super important. Like there's a reason why certain animals have senses of taste. Like they've proven that horses have a sense of taste to avoid poison.
So maybe we can infer from this that none of the plants on the Dork-Bajir planet have evolved to protect themselves from predators. They have not evolved bitter flavors or poison at all.
Or vice versa, the Andalites just evolved to not get fucked up by any of the toxins on their home planet.
Ooh,
Yeah,
what if,
yeah.
what if the toxins that the Andalite grass evolved burns away taste buds?
Oh,
I mean, that's
interesting.
Yeah, that's not where I thought we were going with it, but
Like the first time a baby eats, they're in immense pain. It's like a rite of passage they have to go through. Like eating a bowl of glass or something.
It's like people who are like, I don't really like kiwis because they taste itchy. And you're like, no, they don't. You're just allergic to kiwis. Like, what? Andalites are like, wait, eating isn't supposed to make you feel a little bit like shit? What?
But then at the
Oh
same
my
time,
God.
in the same book, we get a moment where Axe pukes, doesn't he?
No, Elfanger pukes. And Tobias living Elfanger's memory, he pukes after killing a Taxon for the first time.
Yeah, so what does that mean?
Which technically isn't actually the first time. I mean, if we take the Andalite Chronicles as canon, then
Which it
it's
is.
not actually the first time.
Yeah.
Because he kills a lot of people in that book.
But his first one is defending himself from a Taxon, is it not?
It's the first time using his tail, anyways, to do it.
Yeah, versus like killing them psychologically. Like, what do you...
No, being in a ship that destroys another ship full of hundreds of people, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they really... Because, like, when you're killing with your tail blade, that's when you actually feel the death, and that's when it matters.
Because they have a vestigial sense of death.
Okay, is it just me, or did this book not really feel very ghost-written? 1. 2, also have some really beautiful lines?
It did, yeah.
It felt like, this definitely felt like a mainline Animorphs book.
Like, this
Yeah.
was really well written. Like, it wasn't, like, all of the characters really felt like, before our theory is that, okay, you really only get to know the main character's point of view, and they're like, boo. So in a Jake book, you get to know Jake and Cassie. Rachel, you get to know Rachel and Tobias. In this one, everybody felt like themselves, and it just felt really, like between 32 and 33, I for sure would have thought that Applegate wrote this one.
Okay, so this is written by an author named Ellen Giroux, and Ellen has only written, this is her first book for Animorphs,
Oh,
but she also wrote 41, 43, 45, and 47. She's written more than any other ghostwriter.
45 is very good, so that makes sense. Okay. And those are the later ones because Applegate takes back over, like Catherine and Michael take back over the series towards the end, and they're the main writers for it. Probably after 47.
Well, they only wrote I think they only wrote 53 and 54, didn't they?
I thought they wrote 52, 50 to 54.
No, Kimberly Morris wrote 50 and 52.
Okay.
And Lisa Harkrader wrote 51 and 49. So
Oh,
I think they
thought
really only wrote the last
okay,
two.
The very last two.
Mm.
Damn. Wow. Well, no wonder they have this lady write a lot more Animorphs books because they probably read this one and Applegate was like, shit, she's got it all figured out. Hell yeah.
But it's weird because then you've got Laura Badiani Weiss. Well, that's quite the name. Who wrote 31, which is sort of objectively bad. And then also 27, which is also like kind of not great.
I mean, The Exposed was... I liked The Exposed better than The Conspiracy, but yeah, both of them were kind of like, meh.
Well, it was like The Drode, and then it didn't matter.
It did, I mean, he does come back, but it still kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He's mainly just like a way for Kryak to talk to the kids without actually having a big eye appear in front of them, I think.
Did we also get like a mini Taxon Chronicles in this one?
We learn a little bit more about Taxons. No, we kind of just learned the exact same things we knew about Taxons from the Andalite Chronicles. It's just, it kind of reiterates it.
It was just nice to hear more about it, I think. Cause,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that they were lacking. Like, everybody would have loved a Taxon Chronicles. Find out more about these little guys.
They can't add them now because if they ever come back and write more for the fiction, they're not going to start with Taxon Chronicles.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Right?
I would.
Plus, like, I don't know. I feel like it would be, they don't want to J.K. Rowling this. They, right? They don't want to come back and be like, oh yeah, also, if it wasn't explicitly talked about, Visser 3 had an enormous erection every time he was in human morph. Like,
Yeah. The Dork-Bajir were playing Texas Hold'em.
Whenever he watched anyone die, you could hear a distinctive thud as his cock hit the cup he always wears.
Visser 1 and Marco's father stopped having sex long before Visser 1 was infested. Like,
Essentially.
no, don't need this.
Also, sorry, bouncing back to the Andalite physiology stuff. So I know Axe is like, oh, this is like like an urban legend. Like this isn't really something that's observed normally, that you shared memories with your father. But he did share memories with his father. I mean, maybe, because no one else was there to correlate it.
No, and like maybe he invented them as a way to escape. But actually, come on.
But does that mean then that, like, in some way, DNA is encoded or with their memory? Because I don't think that's true for humans.
Well, and I mean, I haven't read these studies. I've just seen like headlines on the internet, but there have been studies showing that like generational kind of like trauma stuff does live in the DNA. Like, if your grandparents went through, your grandparents went through the Great Depression and were hit really hard, that kind of comes down and can affect you and can be some of the reasons why this is up with you and your brain. Like, this is true fact.
I read that paper. It's called Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Ooh, fucking hot take. That was amazing.
Damn it, Brayden, you got me again. But literally, like this, if, I don't know, I'm not going to Google it because I'm just the one that tells you that the information is out there. Y'all have to do the work yourself. But yeah, there have been papers that people have written about this kind of generational, not like memory in this sense, but like a cellular memory almost. So I'm just saying, maybe it can happen.
I mean, maybe people who know more about this can like chime in after they hear this, but a lot of animals know things without necessarily learning them.
This is true.
Like the what's it called with the monkeys that they learned. There was one monkey on the beach that learned to use rocks to crack open these nuts that were
Braden's telling us about
washing
his
up
summer
on the
vacation
beach
again.
And then 5 miles away, another monkey realized how to do it. The problem was these monkeys were separated by 5 miles of ocean. So like there's no chance they would have swam to each other and shown each other this.
And that first monkey's name
was Albert Einstein.
No, I was gonna say Ezio.
That's just that's just the monkeys using logic to both figure out a problem independently, right? Like, it's just a weird coinkydink.
Within the same time as each other? That's fucking wild.
What was it? Dennis the Menace, an American comic, was created at the exact same time that Dennis the Menace, UK comic, was created. Like, sometimes people can have ideas simultaneously but not related, and I think that's a bit different from like collective memory through your DNA. I have an idea. Remember,
damn it.
Book 1.
No, Brayden, she wins because she talked faster and louder.
I also read very fast and loud, so like it works. But please,
and loud. Okay, that's.
I read very loud inside my head. Elfangor touched Tobias on the head, and Tobias kind of reeled back as they like met Elfangor and then ran away, and he gave them morphing powers, right? He had that special moment. What if that was him being like, okay, if you're ever about to die, here's some of my memories. Zoop.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Feels like a waste of time when you could have just said, like, hey, dude, you're my son. Talk to this lawyer.
Also, didn't we learn in Andalite Chronicles that, like, he actually does have a record of all his memories in the ship, and he could have just been like, here's a disc, and he tossed it to Tobias.
No, then the book could have had a disc.
And they try to put it in a CD-ROM reader.
They tape it to a Godzilla stand-up to lead the Yerks on a wild goose chase.
But actually, real talk, they totally could have received like a flash drive with...
They totally could. They would have been just like, what the fuck is this? What's this thumb drive? This technology's not going to be invented for another 10 years.
They had USB in the 90s. It was like USB 1, I think. Yeah,
Did
man, old
they?
printers and shit, I thought.
Did they? Anyway, I'm sorry for interrupting yet again. I just wanted to shout that little bit out before the conversation turned back to more torture porn.
Hey, sci-fi torture porn, okay? It's fantasy. And therefore, less horrifying.
Mikhail, can you read this little note that you've made here?
I wrote in the notes, is Taylor Brayden?
Yes.
It's a genuine question. It's not rhetorical.
I mean, do we learn later that Taylor is apparently into torture porn? Because I'm not. I just know a lot about it.
I mean, the way that she was gleefully, pornfully torturing Tobias kind of tells you all you need to know.
That's a good note to end on. Next week, in our bi-weekly episode of The Speaking Tree, we'll be discussing how we would have sort of executed on Tobias getting caught on purpose in a more effective way. How would we get out of getting caught smoking at school, like Eric at the beginning? And how would we use an Andalite more for purely personal reasons?
You know what I come up with, baby, and it involves ultra-violence.
Okay.
You can find more of our stuff on our podcast page at collectivelegacy.org or on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, or Facebook.
Remember to subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, or else I'll tell you more about sci-fi torture porn. In your ears while you sleep.
It's going to happen either way, honestly. You can show your support for our show at our Patreon page, patreon.com/DORKBAJIR.
We offer special bonuses for patrons, like access to our Discord server, Animorphs essays written by us, and much more.
We like to give a shout out to our patrons at the Dork-Bajir level or higher by giving them an Animorphs style title.
Big shout out to new patron Nick : the puking Andalite.
Greg Della Posta : my vestigial sense of taste.
Ace Chavez : the blue button.
Martha Urquhart : the red button.
Steam Driven : the manual about how to tell between the blue button and the red button.
Anne-Marie Ellis : the red pill.
Andrew Vila: the winner of that Dork-Bajir card game.
Mariah Wamby: the playground tunnel that led to the Yerk pool.
Shauna : these idiots who forgot to say colon.
Elamist : Elamist : a hand covered in chocolate fondue.
Zachary Vaudo : Jake's disgust with himself.
Anyanka : this cool new belt I found on the floor at work.
Michael Armenta : the distrust I have of my partner for trying to trap me in a human morph.
Max Anicut : fly away.
Yeah, bringing it back, baby, for the Fanimorphs.
Sweet bird,
My name is Mikhail, the host.
I'm Tessa, the expert.
And I'm Braden, and it got way too real there near the end.
And this has been Fanimorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles.
Braden, did you actually steal a belt from work, though? Did you just pick up a nasty belt off the ground?
It's not nasty. How is the belt nasty?
Fish it out of a toilet and then, rinse it off and put it on?
No, it's actually just a rope.
What do you want to eat right now? Jinx!
I'm Mitch.
And I'm Sophie. And this is
We Watch Food,
a podcast all about the food we like to watch.
We'll talk all about the best, the craziest, and the tastiest TV, movies, and YouTube channels.
Not to mention trendy food fads and sumptuous food trivia.
Plus, we end every episode with a recipe from one of us.
So join us every Saturday for a new episode and a new insight into what makes us watch so much food.
You can find us at collectivelegacy.org, as well as a bunch of other awesome podcasts.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at We Watch Food.
And on Twitter at We Watch Food Pod. So I've been Mitch.
I'm Sophie.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Brought to you by
Collective Legacy,
a podcast network.